centuries earlier than any other surviving manuscript of this book. The Isaiah scroll is written in Hebrew, but another one contains an Aramaic translation of the book of Job. From the Jordan to the Dead Sea, from Judea to Galilee to Samaria, from Syria to the Negev to Sinai, Aramaic was the language of the people, and therefore also the language of Jesus and the apostles. When he addressed the multitude in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus spoke in Aramaic.
بريخين ايلين ادمسكينين ونبروح ادلهوني ملكوث ودشمايو بريخين نون ايلين دابلين دهينون نتبايون بريخين ايلين ادماكي خين دهينون نرثون لرعو.
After the death and resurrection of Jesus, the apostles and disciples who constituted the Church of Jerusalem went out into the world to spread the word of God, speaking the only language that they knew well, Aramaic.
So they left and preached everywhere, while the Lord went with them and confirmed the word with his great works.
Antioch, today Antakya, on the Orontes River, was the capital of the Roman province of Syria and the third most important city of the empire after Rome and Alexandria. No wonder that it was one of the first places visited by the messengers of the new religion. After consolidating his role as leader of the apostles, Peter lived there for a year with Paul and Barnabas, and together they gathered many converts. The inhabitants of Antioch were sometimes skeptical and often hostile, but here the church accepted non-Jewish converts, and for the first time its congregation became known as Christians. The echo of those days seems to permeate the air around the ancient church cave on the outskirts of the city, where it's believed that Peter preached when he was in Antioch with Paul. The Crusaders added the facade at a time when Antioch was an important Christian base in Syria, but the cave still looks as it did in its primitive state. Originally, it was owned by the evangelist Luke, a native of Antioch, who gave it to the Christians so that they could have their own place to meet and pray together. Today, it's impossible for Christians not to be overwhelmed by the emotion of being in a place that has been sacred since the dawning of their religion. For many tourists, the main attraction is the passage dug from the rock and used, according to tradition, to lead the faithful to safety in times of danger through a maze of inaccessible overhanging caves. The cave church of St. Peter is still used. Pilgrims come here now and then to attend the solemn rites, unchanged by time, celebrated on special days, like the visit of the Patriarch to Antioch at the beginning of the 3rd millennium. For the most part, these pilgrims come from abroad, insofar as the local Christian community is now, unfortunately, almost non-existent. While the new religion was burgeoning in Antioch, another of the 12 apostles, Thomas the Doubter, set off across the ocean heading for India. After a long and hazardous voyage, he finally set foot on the subcontinent's southernmost shores. And so, thanks to Thomas the Apostle, the Church of Christ gained a foothold in that remote area, and with the church came the Aramaic language. In the place where tradition has it that the apostle first encountered the native people, some rabbis who came out to greet him, the scene is reconstructed with life-size models. Nearby are the remains of an ancient Hindu temple, transformed into a Christian church after the conversion of the local people to the gospel announced by Thomas. Centuries later, following in the Apostles' steps, Christianity spread to the center of southern India and Asia along the Silk Route. More often than not, this expansion was accompanied by the spread of the Syriac language. A long Chinese Syriac inscription on a stele erected in Xi'an, in ancient times known as Xinyanfu in western China, bears witness to the arrival in 635 AD of a Syriac mission there. Additional evidence comes from a Syriac manuscript of the Gospel written with golden letters for a Mongol princess at the end of the 13th century that contains a portrait of the princess herself with her husband. Our quest to retrace the history of the Arameans takes us back to the biblical city of Haran in Upper Mesopotamia, one of the oldest centers of habitation in the world and the cradle of the Aramean population, the land of Abraham.
And Terah took Abraham his son, and Lot the son of Haran his son's son, and Sarai his daughter-in-law, his son Abram's wife. And they went forth with them from Ur of the Chaldees to go into the land of Canaan. And they came unto Haran and dwelt there.
This is Haran today. The current inhabitants are unaware of their Aramean ancestry and barely remember the name of their biblical ancestor, even though he is rapidly becoming the town's main tourist attraction. Not far from Haran is Urfa, or Shanli Urfa, glorious Urfa as it is known today, a large city lost in the middle of nowhere, 50 kilometers from the Syrian border. Originally, it was known as Edessa, and it is steeped in history. Subject to the mysterious laws of military alchemy, great empires fought each other for centuries in this hot, dusty location that continued to be a theater of dispute between leading historical figures almost until the present day. The people who live here now are anything but aggressive. In the cool, relaxing park, pious Muslims gather to throw chickpeas to sacred carp. The fish are sacred because legend has it that at the funeral of the patriarch Abraham, who was a great prophet for the Muslim